This is the Birmingham Women's and Children's Hospital's guide to assessing a Diasend download for children and young people with type 1 diabetes who use insulin pump therapy. To help you use this video to its full potential, you will need your Diasend assessment guide, a calculator, your Diasend download. This video will show you how to follow the VIP process of assessing a download. The VIP process makes looking at downloads really simple. V means you must first look at your values. I means you must then assess your current insulin doses. P requires you to observe your blood glucose patterns and finally to make a safe and effective plan. To get your Diasend download, upload to Diasend, log into Diasend, click on the Comparisons tab, then the Logbook tab, then select the last 2 weeks. Research has shown that people with type 1 diabetes who do 5 to 10 finger pricks per day have more in-target blood glucose levels and better control over their diabetes. The download you are looking at here shows that there are 8.9 blood glucose values per day, which is ideal. For best diabetes control, it is best to be in the green zone. To be in the green zone, you need an average blood glucose of 6 to 8. Your average blood glucose tells you what your long-term marker, the HbA1c, will be. It is recommended that this is no higher than 6.5 or 48 millimole per mole. We know that this gives you the best chance of having an energy level and mood similar to other young people who don't have diabetes. That's why all the smiley faces. This will also keep you healthy in the future. The download shows this person's average blood glucose is 8.1 millimole per litre, which if it stays at this level for the next 3 months, the HbA1c would be at 6.5% or 48 millimole per mole. If you have an average blood glucose that's in the amber or red zone, it might be having effects on your mood or energy levels that you haven't realised. Moving closer to the green zone will improve this. It is normal to have 3 to 6 manageable hypos over 2 weeks if you are aiming for the ideal target HbA1c and average blood glucose. Any less and you're probably not getting enough insulin somewhere. If you're having hypos which you can't manage yourself, you need to get in touch with the diabetes team immediately. The download you are looking at shows this person had 11 hypos in the last 2 weeks. This is too many and you need to see if there is a pattern which suggests where they need to adjust their therapy. Patterns can be identified by looking at the colours. The high blood glucose levels are already in the red, the low blood glucose levels are in blue, and the blood glucose levels in target are in green. What patterns can you see on this download? There seems to be a pattern of low blood glucose levels, the blue coloured readings, between 4 and 6 in the evening. There seems to be a pattern where if there is a high blood glucose, red colour, the level stays high for several readings after that. It can be difficult to find patterns and identify causes, so some of the questions you could ask yourself are: have there been any changes in routine, illness, school versus holidays? In this example, it is a normal 2 weeks at school. Accuracy of carbohydrate counting and giving all insulin doses for snacks. In this example, the person is carbohydrate counting accurately and bolusing for all snacks as they weigh foods regularly and use food labels. If you are getting a lot of carbohydrate values at home and not weighing regularly, this may cause you some unwanted high and lows with no patterns. Treating hypos adequately. In this example, you can see after every blue there is a retest where the level has come back to green, showing effective hypo treatment. Activity management. In this example, the person does sports on most weeknights at 4 p.m. after eating their meal at 3:30 p.m. They mostly experience low blood glucose during the activity, but this does not happen at the weekend when there is no sport. It may be when they are doing sport they need to consider reducing their insulin at the meal before. Is the background insulin too much or too little? Assess the blood glucose change from before bed to waking. What happens most of the time? In this example, most of the time, the blood glucose level at bed remains similar through the night and the next morning. This suggests the basal rate is okay. Is the bolus insulin at different times of day too much or too little? Assess the blood glucose before meals when in target green. What happens to the blood glucose to the next meal? Is it still in target? In this example, most of the time, the blood glucose level before meals does not change much by the next meal. This suggests the insulin to carbohydrate ratios are okay. Are the correction doses working when the blood glucose level is high? Identify times when a correction is given, red. What happens to the blood glucose by the next meal? Has it returned to the target, green? In this example, when the blood glucose level is high, red colour, it does not come down to target, the green colour, at the next meal or within 4 hours. This suggests the correction, otherwise known as the insulin sensitivity factor, is not strong enough. The patterns we have identified here and potential reasons for the patterns are hypos at 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. when doing sports, most likely due to not reducing the insulin at the 3:30 p.m. meal. Correction doses are not working, most likely due to the insulin sensitivity factor not being strong enough. If you wish to check with the diabetes team about the patterns observed and changes to make, contact them. If you feel confident to make changes, then continue with the assessment. To help guide your changes, it is important to know how much of your total daily insulin does come from background basal insulin and how much comes from bolus insulin. The compilation page shows you what the split is and can be found here. The usual background insulin percentage expected is 25 to 50%. This person's basal insulin is 30%, which is in the normal range. Now that you have identified patterns and checked the basal background insulin percentage, you can decide which therapy adjustment is necessary. In this example, the therapy adjustment would be an advisable reduction on the days of sport would be a 20% reduction in the insulin dose at the 3:30 p.m. meal. You may want to discuss this with the dietitians, especially if you do a lot of exercise, as specific plans can be made. To make the correction dose higher by making the insulin sensitivity factor stronger. Now you have identified the change needed, it is time to calculate a safe adjustment. First, we must find the current pump settings on Diasend. For basal insulin settings, go to the insulin tab and then pump settings. For bolus insulin settings, go to the glucose tab and then the meter settings. Because the insulin sensitivity factor or correction factor does not appear to work all day, we need to increase this by 10 to 20% by following this formula. For the breakfast insulin sensitivity factor, to increase by 10%, we would do 1 times 0.9 equals 0.9. To increase by 20%, we would do 1 times 0.8 equals 0.8. At lunchtime, to increase by 10%, we would do 1.3 times 0.9 equals 1.2. To increase by 20%, we would do 1.3 times 0.8 equals 1. For the evening meal, to increase by 10%, we would do 2.1 times 0.9, which equals 1.9. To increase by 20%, we would do 2.1 times 0.8 equals 1.7. Now let us see the plan. On the days of sports at 4 p.m, reduce the bolus insulin by 20% at the 3:30 p.m. meal. Make the insulin sensitivity factors stronger by 10 to 20%. For breakfast, 0.9, which is conservative, or 0.8, which would be aggressive. At lunchtime, 1.2, which would be conservative, or 1, which would be aggressive. At the evening meal, 1.9, which is conservative, or 1.7, which is aggressive. Review in 1 to 2 weeks. Now you have made a plan, you will need to decide how you will know if it has been successful. The best way is to pick one criteria and review if it has been achieved in 1 to 2 weeks. In this example, the focus is reducing the number of hypos. If successful, the number of hypos would reduce to below 6 in the next 2 weeks, whilst hopefully maintaining an average blood glucose of 8 millimole per litre. We know from experience it takes time and repetition to become confident in making changes. We also know that following the step-by-step process we have just gone through will allow safe and effective therapy adjustments. We encourage you to be persistent and are here to support you on your journey to more effective self-management of your diabetes.